This is your host, Angela Schroeder, a show where we talk about facing your fears, getting uncomfortable, making courageous decisions, and being great leaders of ourselves and others. So welcoming Melody to the show. So excited to have you on.
Hi, Angela.
I don't know if you could see, can you see the intro video?
No. I did, and I saw me.
I was going to say, I'm like, you are in the intro video.
I feel very honored.
You still get added to the guest list here, but
nice.
your picture's in it from that very first moment that we met. So,
my gosh, that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah. So I met Melody just in sometime this year,
January. It was January.
Vegas at IWCA conference, and we literally had quite an instant, intimate connection. Walked up and walked in with, I think, within just a couple minutes into a very deep dive conversation, and instantly knew that we would be friends, and didn't know what that would look like. But luckily, our paths just continued to cross and be interwoven.
Totally. Yeah, it was very, it's just one of those moments where, I mean, I love deep connections with people, and it was so cool to just, when that happens, I love it so much. It's like that spark of, friendship. It can be forever friends.
Yes, forever friends. And it was that spark, and instantly we could share some deep things. And like I said, so excited that our paths keep intertwining, and I get to spend the week with you.
I'm excited. I'm really excited about that because I love New Orleans. So
yay.
Great.
So before we dive into more, let's tell the audience a little bit about you. Anything that you want to share.
Okay. I am many things. Obviously, I think on this show, we tend to talk more about the business perspective of things. And so I started in home service, window cleaning for a million years, never expected my path to end up where I am right now. Currently, I have a virtual assistant matchmaking company, as you know, and I also have a holiday lights company that I may not have much longer because the VA company takes up a lot of time, and I think it's my path. But I'm also a singer who has stage fright. I write music on occasion. I'm a woodworker. I've rehabbed houses. Aren't we all so many things? And it feels like I like to say all of the things. And I'm super ADD, but that's typical entrepreneur stuff.
Yes, it is. All of the things. I love that.
Yes.
Tracy and I are saying that a lot. And all of the things.
All the things. Exactly.
Oh, goodness. You have many talents that I continue to learn about, because I didn't know about all those.
Oh, yeah. I think because we get so busy, or I get so busy with the thing in front of me, that I lose track of some of the other things that I like to, I'm a very creative person. And so business is very creative too, but I like to do a lot of things.
So we're going to dive into some of those. I feel like the last 2 weeks, when said you're very ADD or ADHD, whichever way you label that. And I believe I am too. I believe, like you said, most entrepreneurs are in some capacity, because we've now talked about it episode after episode. Are there things that you do? Because I'm interested, we haven't really dove into the solution. Are there things or solutions that you feel like you've learned to incorporate over the years that harness the strength of that? Because it is also a strength.
Yes. Well, I would say, so I was diagnosed when I was 30. I was in school full time. I running a business full time, raising a daughter as a single mother. And I went crying to my doctor saying, why can't I do all of this stuff? What's wrong with me? And he's like, you're insane. This is way too much stuff to be doing. And I think you have ADD. Why don't you go get tested? So I did a really thorough, it was like 8 hours of testing.
Oh, wow.
And it was the best thing I ever did, because first of all, it allowed me to understand all of the frustrating things about myself that I had struggled with, that gave me a lack of confidence, really. And it allowed me to start understanding those things and how they could be different in my life, like how I could actually have more control over that. And it also allowed me to have a lot more compassion for myself. I had very high expectations of myself, and I still struggle with that. But it allowed me to really step back and be like, you're doing more than the average person already. I think you need to chill a little bit. I've never learned to chill, but I'm trying. I'm always trying. But what it did teach me, first of all, reading, what is the one book by Dr. Hallowell? I forget the name of it, but it's like the preeminent book on ADD from 20 years ago. And reading that, I was like, oh my God, this is me. And it just, I learned from the diagnosis that, for instance, being in an online classroom was going to be much better for me than being in a regular classroom setting, which was important for my college experience, because I will be constantly distracted by everything around me. Whereas if I'm just online, I can highly focus on what's in front of me and get it done. And so there were a lot of tips like that that I learned, trying to think of some of them. I think the biggest thing moving forward to now, and what got me into virtual assistants, is having an executive virtual assistant is what really changed my life, because it allowed me, once I understood how to create that relationship and to let them help me in the way that I need help, it allowed me to release so many things that just get there. My brain, it's always all over the place, right?
Mhm.
Releasing all of that stuff to somebody else allows me to be at my best a lot more, because we don't understand how much energy is drained from us when we are doing all the thinking about all the things. Um, and it's not perfect. I am not a perfect boss or a perfect person. It's always a work in progress. But having a person who is like my partner in running my life essentially has
Yeah.
been the thing that's allowed me to grow the quickest.
That is important, and I echo you in that, since we share the passion of that and working with virtual assistants and helping other people do that. And I would agree that that is such a big thing for me in getting out the distraction, because you know, everything is moving. You're always thinking of a new idea, and
Oh
being
God.
able to have someone that you can trust.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Shine's on here with us. She's my awesome partner
Oh,
in
okay.
crime. And being able to just release it to her, to
Yes.
when the things come up and I say it, then I can trust that it's executed, or that she'll bring it up again in question, that I can absolutely trust it's out of my mind. I don't
Yeah.
need to think about that I have to take care of um, getting a dress for the masquerade ball.
Yeah.
Things
Right.
like that. Like, I have to do that, and you can immediately have somebody else do all the things.
Yeah.
Um,
And one of the things that had really helped me and that I teach our clients is that, I communicate a lot on Slack all day with my team. And I created a channel called Mel's Brain. And basically, what happens, like when you have an employee, the boundaries can get crossed. And I am definitely one who doesn't even realize I'm crossing boundaries. So I'm always having to like reset that. But I don't want to be, when I think of something, I'm going to write it down immediately. But I made a rule that if it goes into Mel's brain, it's not urgent, and it doesn't. And most things can go into the Mel's brain channel, and then it gets put on my master list. And the job of my executive virtual assistant is to figure out the order of urgency for these things. And that's a really hard job, but also to make sure that I'm not missing things. But it's a hard job because everything feels super urgent to me all the time. Like I don't know about you, like I have trouble putting things in order of urgency. So
yeah.
that's, yeah.
Everything is urgent.
Yes. Immediate and urgent.
When everyone in my life, whether it be my team, my kids,
Mm-hmm.
everyone, I'm like, everything is urgent.
Yeah.
Everything needs done immediately. Like, why don't we plan in advance? Because I have so many new ideas.
Every day. Yeah. It's really bad and it's good. And it's interesting because my husband has learned to deal with me, I will say, and trust that just because I say 1,000 ideas does not mean that I'm going to do 1,000 ideas. And that's what used to scare him. He would hear all of this stuff coming out, and it can scare people around us. because they
Yes.
think we're going to do all of it. But really, the ones that stay are the important ones. And I want to give your audience a tip actually about your VA audience, even if they're here, about how to nicely say no to somebody like you and me without hurting anybody's feelings, because that's a really hard thing to do. And so if we are giving another shiny thing that we need that's super urgent and putting it onto the list, they can say, that's great, I'll put it on the list. Where should that go in order of urgency? Like, is it more important than this thing? So it puts it back on us so that we have to kind of say, oh, no, actually, this thing is more important than that thing. And I've always found that I heard that from somebody at some point, but it was like, oh my God, yeah, because I, as a woman, have trouble saying no. My assistants have trouble. Everybody has trouble saying no. Well, not some people, but people in my world, I feel like. And
Yes.
so this is a great way to not have to say no.
I really like that wording. I mean, to echo it back, and I mean, that's a great clarification question in general, but
Yes.
great, especially for our VA teams, for
Mm-hmm.
anyone working with people like us
Yeah.
in any capacity. Like, okay,
Yep.
urgent, where on the urgency list?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, do you have that? Reminds me of when they say, I often forget to communicate the deadlines of, like I didn't know where that went. So it's good to ask that clarification question, because they're like, well, you didn't say when you needed that, because I
Right.
always think in my head, I need it right now.
Yeah.
That's what I need it.
Yeah, it's really hard. If we are doing it right and we use the master list, it has like urgency 1 through 5. It has a due date area on it, but we
Mhm.
don't always use that to the best of its capacity. You know what I mean? Because things move so fast all the time. I've
Yes.
actually been told by my last EVA that I probably am a two-person job, because not just, I mean, if it's just me, it's fine, but I have two businesses and the family, and there's always something going on. It's a lot of chaos, even though I long for, peacefulness. My life has not been set up that way. But that's something that I've thought about, is like, it might be a two-person job if I have all these businesses, but I'm trying to get it down to a one-person job.
Or that there's things that, that they can delegate to some other team member. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually something.
like social media, or some capacities of what they do are
Yes.
that they can delegate, so that they can be
Yeah, that who, not how thing is important in any company, I think. But I actually tell my team all the time and remind them, like, if we're not an expert at something, we should not be doing it. And we all have the tendency to want to just dive in without thinking and just figure it out. But
yes.
like, there are a million people on Upwork and Fiverr who are experts at the thing that we don't know about, that would take them, an hour where it takes us 10 hours to figure it out. And so I try to have my team always look towards another way if needed.
Yeah. Well, I love all that you said in that, of explaining how you've put those things in action, of knowing what distracts you, knowing how to best work, that you need a partner that helps to run you, and that understanding it, I think, the awareness, the embracing that, hey, this is something that is actually going on in my brain, and the awareness of it. And I like that you said compassion for yourself, of like, wow, I'm now able to give myself a little grace, that this is a lot that's going on,
Yeah,
and I don't have to be handling it exactly how somebody else would. And, what do I
it's
put into
hard.
my
I mean, it's really hard because I I know there's another part of that, which is that when you release a lot of the things to somebody else and you trust them, it means I don't remember how to do very basic things. I've literally released them from my head because I can't keep it here. And I know that my best magical time is when my brain can be sparkly and just
Mm,
do the thing, like, I know that to get to that place, I have only a limited amount of energy and I have to preserve it for that thing. And that's the goal. But it means sometimes I look like a fool. And that always bothers me, because when you grow up with ADD, you already feel stupid. Like, you feel like something's wrong with you. And So I'm always fighting that inner thing of like, oh, why don't you know how to do a Zoom meeting already? Well, because I don't want to know how to do a Zoom meeting. I want somebody to start it for me every time so I don't have to think about it every time, because my brain, it's hard to do processes. And so those are the things I tend to give away. But then on the weekends, not as fun for me because I have to figure out how to do things that are pretty basic.
And Melody and I had this real life experience this morning, like at 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And we're texting each other, and we're like, I'm like, I don't even know how to see if you accepted a comment. I don't even know how to do that.
Yeah, that's me. My life.
So we had it in real life, and I was like, and I really don't want to figure out how either. So we'll just wait for the team to start.
Yes, and we figured it out.
Yeah, and our people to figure it out together. But
yeah.
I love that you said sparkly brain, and you said something to me that I wrote down, so I have it in a quote in a notebook somewhere. And I think now that you said to me at BBB at the mastermind in Nashville, something about that you love operating in your sparkly brain.
I do. Oh my gosh, because it's the place. So when I was in the Philippines recently with my team, the best day that I had, so we were at a beach for a week, and I'd been putting off doing the talk that I needed to have because I knew it would take my energy. And the talk was how I envision relationships and people, because when you're recruiting, you have to have an understanding of people that's from my brain, not from anybody else's, because the whole business is based on my brain. And I do have Dean as my co-founder, but she's really the person who gets the stuff done. But so on Friday of that week, the last day, we came together and I'm like, okay, we have to do this. And we recorded it. And it's the first time I ever really sat down with the team and spent 3.5 hours. And it was like I was preaching. It was like the Lord was coming out of my, like how preachers get in the zone. That's my sparkly brain. I suddenly just am in the moment, and everything in my best moments that I could get it all out, and it made sense. And I didn't even realize how long it was. We did take a break in between, but it was like the best time of that whole week. But I couldn't have done it before that because I needed that pressure also. That's another ADD thing, that chemical pressure of like, crap, I have to get this done now. When I have those moments, it is everything, because that's when I'm at my best. It's when my brain is clearest. And that's only like 5% of, I think, my life is that part. I would love it to be like 100%, but it also is exhausting. But it's a very small percentage of my time that I can actually do that. And that's actually very disappointing because I love that feeling. Now, what comes after that feeling? The crash. There's that moment of like amazing magicalness. And then I want to feel that all the time. And when you don't, you kind of have a little dive. And I've learned to kind of work my way through those emotions and come back on the other side and start again. But it's hard to be a creative person because creativity is energy, and it is magic when it's done right. And when it comes easy, right? But then there's another side to that. There's a darker side, which is the mental health toll of that.
There is. A lot of people don't realize that part of it. And I was a lot more in those peaks and valleys when I lived in the creative season, when I had my dance studio and was constantly creating and loved living in that creative space. But when you have to be creative for pressure, like that there is so much deadline on creation, and the business and your livelihood depends on your ability to be creative. And then there's a lot of that, because when you are in your flow of creativity, it is this
that flow state,
crazy high. You're like creating a masterpiece. And then when it's over, and I always felt like that at the end of big events, at the end of Disney performances, it's like the worst crash.
Yes, it really is.
When I was younger, I didn't know how to get myself understand or get myself out of, because no one else would understand. Like they think, oh my gosh, this big high, we're celebrating your biggest win. And
it's really hard. But as I've gotten older, and maybe for you too, like I've learned to sit in the discomfort of it more. And I remember, even though I'm experiencing the feelings, the logical Melody says, remember, this is just a moment. You're going to get to the other side. It always happens this way. So I kind of like have gotten better about it, but it's never fun.
No,
That's not the fun part.
yeah. But at least have the awareness instead of it also
Yes.
creating, yeah, like a panic or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, so when you mentioned all these creative things at the beginning, like woodworking, and I'm like, what? You have all kinds of things about you I didn't know. And then now you're saying you only feel like, and I feel like that sometimes too. I think it was maybe a reality when you just said it to yourself, like I only get to live in the sparkly brain 5% of the time.
Yes.
And I often feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting myself close to my goals and doing things that are important. But when am I really doing the soul, the things that just light me up?
Yes,
I don't, that's probably that small fraction too, which is sad. So
it is.
how do you, are you intentionally more? How do you plan to create windows of time to live in that more?
Oh, I'm so bad at that part. I mean, we all know how we're supposed to do it. And I think there are people who are really good at creating windows of time and then sitting in it. But again, with ADD, I hate structure and crave structure. I fight it, but I need it. And it's an eternal battle for me. I think I often let myself get into first of all, I feel guilty if I'm not working. That's like an old thing that I was raised to be a hard worker. I was told hard work is the most important thing. I was window cleaner, working hard, worked harder than everybody that I could. And then I realized as I got more into my purpose, like I can't do that. That is not the most important thing. So I'm actually most creative when I'm what I would consider lazy, when I'm just dreamy. And I don't allow myself enough time to do that. And it's something I'm always working on. I find when I ride my bike, I can get really happy and I start to feel more things. But I don't always remember to stop working on the computer and to go out and do active things. It's like that it's so hard to be present because sometimes, and I think I might have told you this, I'll say it to the world. I feel like my body is just a vessel that my brain lives in. And so I'm so disconnected sometimes from my body that I am just a workaholic. And I call myself a recovering workaholic as a reminder that I do not want to be a workaholic. I'm trying to get to the point where I am doing more things that are purpose filled or bringing me joy or creative energy or just like allowing me space. And it's hard. And I'm a seeker like you are. Like I'm always looking for the thing that's going to get me closer to that. There's one thing I discovered that I think anybody could use, and I love it so much. It's called Cave Day. And if you're a person who struggles like I do with taking that space, what they do is it's just like a website you sign up for. You get an appointment to show up and you're going to do like focus on one thing. They start you off with a little bit of like a centering moment and you're with like sometimes 20, sometimes 50 other people in this Zoom room essentially. And I need accountability. And so it's a funny way of tricking myself into being accountable. So I get into that space. I do what they say. We have to say what we're going to do. And then we just start working on it. It's called like we do sprints. And because there's people who are doing the same thing as me, it's kind of amazing how much I can get done in those sprints. And then they stop every 50 minutes, I think. You take a little break and then you can start the next sprint. Best thing I signed up for this year. I do not use it enough. I often forget that it's available. And one of the things, my newest assistant, she does not understand that she has the power as much to just put me in those meetings, like schedule it for me and say, okay, Mel, you have an appointment at this time, because I'll show up. I'll show up for anybody else, not myself often. That's like a problem. So if somebody can trick me, I'm always trying to trick myself into doing things and I can show up, I'll do the work. And I'm really good when I'm in those places, but it's called Cave Day. Very cool.
Cave Day.
Yeah.
That sounds like that's when I was in my book program. We had things like that
Yeah.
to get writing done because exactly it's like this big looming project, but my personality would wait until the deadline and like,
oh, yeah.
I have to get all these other things done and then I'll write.
Yeah.
they put things like that in place where you showed up and did sprints and wrote with people. And there was something about that accountability. Like there's nothing else I can be doing. This is on my calendar. I'm in a meeting and I have to be executing this
probably
right now.
One of the better tricks to getting it done. It's just a matter of remembering to set the appointments on my part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm like you, I don't want to set them in. I don't know what's going to come up.
Oh my God. Yes. I'm like, I need a calendar. I'm better when I have a calendar that is scheduled, and I've given my calendar over to my assistants, which is helpful, but I always want to leave as much space as possible just in case. And of course, something's always going to come up just in case, but it doesn't have to.
Yeah. But that's what I think. I was like, I never would have known. I mean, 2 months ago, I never would have known anything I was doing right now, so much has been changed and been different. So what if I had more things on my calendar that I couldn't move?
I know. Yeah, that's how I think too. But usually that's just a story we tell ourselves because we just want, it is an excuse. I will vow to pay more attention to that because I'm very mindful of it at this very moment. So,
okay. I wrote that down, Cave Day. I'm going to steal that and use that. On that note, I can't even believe time is like flying.
What?
And I'm getting an alert like, hello, we need to take a commercial break. So we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. Okay. And we're back.
Hi.
Hey. I used to try and do the commercials and things that we shouldn't do ourselves. I used to try and do all of the production of this myself, like press all the buttons, and it was a disaster.
That would stress me out.
I'm like, and which there's some of them that you still just have to do from your own microphone setting, being involved, like getting live on the radio. But now I've tried to turn over absolutely as much of this I can.
Very smart.
Shine is a rock star. So, so let's get into some courage things. But I am like all fired up. This tip of Cave Day and creativity.
Oh,
and like embracing all this stuff. I'm going to be more efficient and more creative. So thank you for that before we bridge. So let's talk about a little bit of courage, of stories of that, tell me in your entrepreneurial journey, about some fears that you've overcome or courageous decisions that you've made.
Man, I feel like I've done it all. I think I'm on my 6th business. My first business that I sold, I had financed it and I ended up having to repossess it because their partnership fell apart. And that was a decision that was not easy to make because the person who did that kind of was like, hey, guess what? I'm not paying you anymore. I'm keeping all your customers and all the equipment, and there's nothing you can do about it. And when there are people who are sleazy, they always think they're smarter than good people because they think good people don't know how to think in a sleazy way. When in fact, I think good people, I mean, I know how to think sleazy. I choose not to be sleazy, but that was something that I worked really hard to get the business back from him. And it took a lot of thinking in a way that I didn't want to, but I did. And I won. I got everything back. I ended up winning the case, but in court. But what ended up happening is I had to start a placeholder business. And that was the second window cleaning company I started while I was waiting for everything to be returned. And that's when I really started thinking about purpose, because, you know, when you have a service business in the beginning, at least for me, I was doing it to survive. Like I just needed to survive for me and my daughter. I wanted to buy a house. There's things I wanted, but I'm also so people oriented, so service oriented. I want to help people. And so even though I'm like cleaning somebody's windows, that's not enough help in my view. And how do you get employees on board to want to help, you know, or to want to buy in to what you're doing, right? If it's window cleaning, it's hard to be like, now let's go out there and clean some windows. Like that's not the thing that can inspire every day. And so that journey of like going through that really hard thing, I ended up with this new business where I did not feel like there was anything at stake. I had nothing to prove. The last one felt like had a stranglehold around my neck because I just didn't know if I knew how to do business. I knew how to like work in the business, but I struggled with figuring out how to be a business owner, even though I was. But the new business, having to create that, allowed me so much freedom that, and because I cared a lot less, I was able to create a purpose-driven business. And that actually took a lot of courage for me to do, because window cleaning is very male dominated, and I've always strived to be one of the guys. I want to like outwork them. I'm going to show them that I'm just as good as they are. And that's like an old mentality. I know things are changing, but it was really hard in the early years to be seen and heard and taken seriously. But I realized I needed to mold the business in the way that I felt my customers would relate to, that my employees would be like latched onto, that would be meaningful to them. And so what I realized is I wanted to become a brand myself as woman-owned, purpose-driven. Saying that I was woman-owned was something that I had never, ever said before. And even though it seems dumb, I was terrified to make that part of my branding at the time. This was back in like 2019. And then I started a community fund where we donated 2% of our revenue to local nonprofits, and we gave each of our clients a share. And so sometimes we'd have commercial clients that would be like $20,000 jobs, and then we'd have like $500 jobs. But the $20,000 jobs, they didn't care about the fund or whatever. So it would end up with everybody getting a bigger share. The minimum share we'd give to a local nonprofit was $50. And what I liked about it is it all had to be local, but it was anything that the client believed in, whatever they supported. It wasn't about what I supported, because I might care about cancer and you might care about dogs. And so it allowed me to open up a whole new world. And my employees got a share, my family got a share. And suddenly the business was way more exciting. I could talk every morning, every Monday, we had a meeting and we'd talk about how much was in the fund, because we literally used profit first. We would take 2% of every time we made a what is it called, a deposit, put it right into that fund. And it was the best thing ever. I started creating relationships with local nonprofits, and I realized, oh, our social media, we can make everything about helping people, about introducing them to other local nonprofits that maybe don't get as much attention. And it became like this circle of, it was marketing, but it was more meaningful than any marketing. And it was the best thing I've ever done. I also had a coffee appreciation day for clients, and I was afraid they wouldn't come. This is what actually started the community fund. So I said, I will donate $1,000 to any local nonprofit. Whoever shows up will get that $1,000. Either like if one person shows up, they can donate it to whatever nonprofit. If 20 people show up, I'll split it up. And it turned into the best time, because clients would come. We usually get between like 20 to 40. It depended on the season and the day. And they would stay sometimes for 2 hours hanging out with my employees. We'd buy them coffee. Sometimes they just come in. It was like now it doesn't feel courageous at all to do that. But back then, where my mindset was at, it felt like such a switch of really finding who I was, like, and actually living it. It changed everything for me. And it was like, it still makes me feel like tingly, because it was so good. And the people who bought my window cleaning business, they still do it. And and I'm not money motivated, Angela. It's really hard for me to focus on money. It's something I struggle with. And so suddenly, if I'm using profit first and I know that I want to donate, let's say $50,000 in the next couple of years to local nonprofits, I know what that top line revenue should be. And I know that I'm going to have more profit because of it. So it's almost like the profit comes, but it's not the part I'm focused on. So it was like the best, but it was hard.
You can tell your enthusiasm, like just how you light up talking about that, and how good it must have felt in the moment. You're right, courageous, because it was going against the way of what everyone else is doing. So really putting, when you're putting your purpose out there, that's like putting your heart out there and putting your heart out on something, instead of just doing what everyone else is doing. Really sharing and being vulnerable about your purpose,
yes,
is in any way is definitely courageous. It's one of the most courageous and out there and uncomfortable things that we can do. But look how much it changed so many people, and was able to, for you, create like a completely different relationship with your business, that it wasn't
Absolutely.
just business.
Yeah, it wasn't business anymore. And the other thing is I had studied my clients. I'm always looking at what were people reading? What did their bumper stickers say? Where are they donating their money to? And what I realized is they were at a point in their life where they were giving back. They didn't need another, like, you know, gift or something from me, but they loved being able to donate to something that was important to them. And what I said to them is it wasn't like I'm taking money that would have been like reduced their price. I'm giving gifting them a part of my profit, so that because I appreciate them and because I want to help our community, because the community had given me so much when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was also in 2018, my former husband passed away, and I had to do a GoFundMe. And it was really, really hard because I am great at giving to other people. I am really bad at taking. And it was a really hard decision, but I had talked to somebody at that time who had also done one. And he said, I am able to do this and accept it because I know that I'm going to give back so much more because of this experience in the future. And that helped me so much. And that's really what it all stemmed from, was that experience way back then.
I love that. Yeah, you can just tell, like I said, my brain is turning of like tell like what a spark it is when you talk about this purpose and how much different it changed. And it made me think of those are moments when we figure that out, how to really align with our purpose, like not just work towards the goal that we want to accomplish for some reason. And all these ideas excite us and we are working towards them and they all are exciting.
Yeah.
But when you really can figure out how to align it with a purpose that means
Mm-hmm.
something to you and figure that out, I'm sure you feel this way too, that takes like all the ADD stuff away. It somehow is like your heart's working towards it, not just your
Mm-hmm.
brain. And you no longer have to like decipher the tasks or the
Yeah.
idea.
Well, it's the emotional. I say I'm like always, I have waves of emotion. And when you don't have a purpose, and like I go from, I have a purpose to why do I exist in this world? You know, there's like the high and the low. And I need to
Yeah.
have
Yes.
a sense of purpose. And I truly believe that we all do have some purpose to be here. And as I've grown in my courage, actually, to kind of own what I feel is my purpose, it's
Mm.
it doesn't become it becomes easier to do the work. Um, and it's really interesting because I right now in building the Melody Manager that you know about, like I know my purpose is to help purpose driven women like me, and I want to help purpose driven virtual assistants, people who want to help other people. And it makes so much sense to me now. And it's always kind of, I've always had a heart for women, but I didn't understand like how to pull it all together. But it takes courage for me to even say I have a heart for women, which is silly because I love all my guy friends. I love all of the people, but I understand how hard it is for female entrepreneurs, mothers, wives. We hold the emotional weight of everybody's stuff on our shoulders. And I understand what it means to have somebody by your side to help you take off that weight, and how helpful that is. So if I can help purpose-driven women to achieve more, I'm actually making a much bigger impact in this world than just, my little thing.
Absolutely helping them with their purpose. And I want to get into Melody
Yeah.
Manager. But yeah, this purpose conversation, that is exactly right. It's another light bulb for me because I have been in this. I mean, just in the last couple of days, I was like, okay, I have this task. Like, I've got to figure these things out. My content, I have like these
Yeah.
things for myself. But the reason I wasn't getting it done and then frustrated with myself in like, I didn't get this lane or this vertical done like I was supposed to is because I was struggling with, we go through those waves of, wait a second, what is my purpose here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I have it in the other areas, but I can't tie it together in this. And unless you can get crystal clear, and that's what I was having. I mean, that's vulnerable for me to say,
Yeah.
but you in seasons of, oh, I got it. I am all
Yes.
together and I know what I'm doing and I'm on it. And then seasons of,
I don't know.
what am I even doing here?
I love that you said that. I feel like I wish more people were open about the struggles in the entrepreneurial space and how we don't always feel like, I just see a lot of people with a lot of confidence, and I assumed as I was coming up that I needed to get there. And now what I understand about myself, thanks to my therapist also, is I will probably never feel sure about anything. And part of that is the way I was raised and my experiences. Part of it is just I'm so heart-centered that I'm always rethinking things I believe in. I have that strong beliefs, weakly held philosophy. And sometimes it's not the best philosophy. It gets in the way of my ability to move forward, but it's also good long term because I don't ever want to just get stuck in one way of believing but it's really hard. And I love that you are just courageous enough to say it to other people, because I think you see the more we say it, the more validation we get from people who are like, I never knew that you felt that, or that you went through that too. Or, it just, I'm like, oh, I wish somebody had told me. I'm going to tell the world,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Melody Managers. Let's talk
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. So as you know, I have homeserviceva.com, and it's so funny that I don't think I even knew you had a VA company for so long into our
No, we
relationship.
didn't talk about that. I mean, we
Never.
go just real deep in
Yes.
your life.
Like,
And
I had
then
no
we
clue.
know that we
Yeah.
shared that.
And so I was like, well, and then I'm like, well, you're my mentor now, because I do things and I understand from my place of heart what I'm trying to do, but it doesn't mean I always understand how to do things exactly. So I'm always trying to learn from people who are wiser than me. So that's you now. And
Oh, I don't know about that.
it's
I
true.
just have pages and notes for you today.
Well, but you're learning, you're growing. And so what I realized is I started off homeserviceva.com in home service because that's what I was in. That's the land of people that I know. But I realized after a while, like, I've had to travel all year, as you travel too. Like, it is exhausting. I'm always somewhere else. I'm dealing with things with my family and then going out again. I'm leaving tomorrow, just like you are. And um, home service is hard to get in your foot in the door. So even though I have been a home service person surrounded by all these home service people, they've never been my customer. I don't know how to sell to them. So I've had to learn. The people who were always my customers were women. I am very good at understanding the needs of women, of understanding how to sell to them. It's not selling, it's educating, it's just having conversations, but it's easy for me. And I've always wanted to go back to that space. And the more women I've collected as friends along my journey, the more I've realized like they need help the way that I needed help. And I'm good at people. And so, like I said, like I want to help women like us who are purpose driven, who are heart centered, who just want to serve the world. But also it's a struggle because we have so many things that people depending on us. Like, I don't know how women do it, to be honest. And then at the same time, I feel like virtual assistants they get a bad rap. It's almost like sometimes they're not considered human beings. They're almost and not everybody thinks that way. And I don't think our customers do. But I want to be working with people who are going to want to forge those deep connections and relationships. And it's going to be meaningful to both people. So that when you're caring about a person, they're caring about you. It's like a partnership, and it works. I want heart-centered people to be able to connect with each other. And there's like some safety. If you find the right people, it's the safety of knowing that they're never going to judge you, or, they're going to go through those ebbs and flows with you. They're going to be patient with you, and their heart is there to just serve and help you. And so that is what I'm trying to build right now. It's an agency for helping women. And one of the cool things that I'm doing in that agency, and one of the issues I think we've had in VA world, is sometimes there's not communication gaps, but kind of, even when people are well educated, because we're working with Filipinos, the comprehension isn't always the same on the same level. And so I just became certified in something, AI persona method, which is basically the ability to teach something like ChatGPT how to become a persona for the company. So for instance, it helped me build out, I told it it was my EOS, what is it called? You know, entrepreneurial operating system for traction.
Yes.
We're supposed to get an EOS integrator, but we can't afford it yet in our company. So I said, you are my EOS integrator. And this is what you are. This is everything about us and our company. And then I worked with it to develop the strategy and structure of how we're going to operate as an EOS company. I can ask it for advice. Like I really trained it to be that thing. And what I realized as I was going through this is I can train all of our EVAs, all of our executive virtual assistants to utilize AI at a much higher level so that they can serve their people at a much higher level, so that the trust can be built and kept at a much higher level. And I am not a computer person. I am not like a tech nerd, but there is something about this that really, usually I don't, this is courage, I guess. Usually I'm the last one to do things. But this time I was like, I think I need to get into this and get into it seriously because it could help other people. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm helping other people. I just had my first strategy session with a friend the other day to see if I could do it. And it went really well because when doing it for yourself versus somebody else, it's different. So that's one of the things that I think is really exciting about what I'm doing is having that AI component and not being scared of the robot, but accepting it into my life.
uh, Accepting it into our lives because
Yes.
it's here. It's here, everyone.
It's
If you're
here whether
not,
we like it or not. Yeah.
it's here whether you like it or not, and you will be left behind because things are changing. It is not what people don't understand. It's not just making your life easier or a tool to make your life easier. Like things are changing. And if you are not using it, everyone else is getting better and you're going to be left in the dust.
Yeah.
So, and I like that you talked about utilizing them with VAs because there
Yes.
are things going on as AI comes now that some people think, oh, now I don't need a person because I can use AI. And that's
you need
not
a
true.
person. Yeah, you need a person.
And that they are on top of AI, that,
Yes.
you know, that it is, we've had to as well, like hugely shift to be like, everybody's got to be an expert in this and be
Yes.
using all the tools so that you can be most effective in your job, that
Yeah.
we can, you know, that we can both help our assistants become work in their genius more, that they're not
Yeah.
only helping the, you know, their client be in their best, but how can they be their best and work in their strengths and use AI to do the
Yeah.
rest.
Well, because like being an executive assistant, I think is one of the hardest jobs, especially for people like me. Like having a client like me, I always say
Yeah.
I'm the worst client because of
Oh,
how crazy my brain is all the time. And
I
but
know.
I'm also the best client because I'm a test case all the time and I'm a nice boss. So it's like I feel a lot for the person who has to manage me because I'm they're never going to be an expert on everything that I'm doing because neither am I. But if they're somebody who loves learning, who has a curious mind, that's all I think that people really need. If you're a smart person with the curiosity for learning, you can learn anything. And that's what I love about, you know, assistants. Usually if we hire right, they are curious people and they're always wanting to grow.
Curious and problem solvers. I mean,
Yes.
that's me. Like
Critical
just
thinkers.
be a problem solver, own it.
Yep.
Because I can't own it. So when I'm giving it to you,
Yeah.
I need to own it and I just need you to solve the problem.
Well, and that's how I came up with the name Melody Manager because it is really hard for an assistant to own because I'm the boss and you're the assistant and that's kind of like the hierarchy, right? So I started joking and saying like, listen, you're the Melody Manager now. You have to manage me and make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And it
Yeah.
kind of started as a joke, but then I realized the more people understood and were like, I need a Melody Manager. I was like, that really caught on. I think that's a thing.
It is. That's what I say. I mean, they're my partner, but I was like you need to manage me. You need to
Yes.
make sure that I am doing the high level things that I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Like smack me. Like you did not
But
spend that time in the high level
but
things.
it's
You did.
hard. We have to give permission all the time. I mean, I'm shocked at how many, sometimes it takes months of work to continuously give permission to be my manager. And it's not because if you're a nice person and you have empathy, like they see our lives and they're like, but you're so tired, you know, and we want them to be like, do the work, but they see the greater
Yes.
picture. And
Dude,
sometimes they see when we need rest. And that's
yeah,
another
like,
thing.
just rest. I'm like, no,
Yes.
not rest. I didn't do my homework.
Yes. Yeah. But that's like developing the relationship is key. I think that's the thing that is most important when you're having an executive assistant help you with your life, is just taking the time to really teach them who you are, be vulnerable, like really vulnerable. They know everything wrong with me or all my weaknesses. And the more I say them, the better I am at not caring about them and seeing them as like, this is who I am. It's not like a shameful secret anymore, you know?
Absolutely. Because they see everything in our lives.
Yeah,
So
they do.
well, I cannot believe we are out of time. And on the final question, if you are watching on Facebook, I didn't put any of the comments up here because I forgot to say this in the beginning. You have to allow StreamYard permission to first so that we can see your comments and your name. So the only person that I can put up here that I know who commented is JC. He said hi.
My best friend and your best friend, which I love.
Oh,
I love it.
Best friends. So we have some other comments saying hi, ladies, but we can't see until after on Facebook because we can't see them here. Okay. So any last comments or questions, you can put those in. But our challenge in every episode is, what is one thing that you need to do to get uncomfortable? So Melody and I are going to answer it first, and then it's our challenge to you. You can type it in the chat box if you want. Let us know what it is that you're going to do to get uncomfortable. So Melody, we're going to start with you. What's one thing you need to do this week?
Okay. To get uncomfortable. Honestly, this is so silly, but I have put off dealing with my employee unemployment taxes because I hate it. Gives me heartburn to look at it. And I just need to do it. And I know that doesn't sound like courage. For me, it's going to take courage to get into it because it's like it just is not my area of love, expertise, or it's an area of weakness, really, to figure these things out. Paperwork, basically. So not the best answer, but it is to me very important that I do that.
No, I think we are like so much the same. Because those things, like dealing with any of that kind of stuff, it does. When you said heart, like it literally makes me sick.
Yes, I feel sick, and yet I haven't done it for 2 months because I feel sick, and I'm like, I'm going to feel more sick when I do it, but I won't. I'll feel better.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to do it.
So many things that we put off create that.
Yeah.
So, wow.
It's yours.
Okay, I am going to say my thing to get uncomfortable is I really have to dive into this purpose thing and then say it out loud. So I'm going to have a conversation with you. I'm going to make myself figure it out and stop avoiding it. The purpose attached, so just like tying everything together. That's what I'm working on. Like I've got all these different verticals that are awesome. Yes. What are all of them and their purpose?
How do they connect?
So, how do they connect?
Do we get to have a conversation about it when I see you?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. You're going to hold me accountable because I'm absolutely going to work on it and stop doing the to-do list that sometimes feels good. And I will promise
the deep
to have
work.
And I will do the deep work and have a conversation with you about it in New Orleans.
Awesome. I love that.
So thank you so much for tuning in on our a little bit different time this week on Facebook. Otherwise, you can usually catch us here at 4:30 on Wednesdays. Thanks for joining us live. And again, what is one thing you need to do to get uncomfortable this week? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.